Hey everybody, welcome to the 5th episode in this series on how to live with Subversion and Git in parallel. Today we're going to set up a Git Subversion mirror, a centralized Git Subversion mirror which can be used between several developers who are working with local Git repositories against a centralized Subversion installation. There's this kind of a SketchUp which shows what we want to achieve. Here's basically our good old Subversion repository installed on some server in the company, and in addition to this, we have two centralized Git repositories, one fetching repository and one bear repository. The fetching repository is a repository that automatically triggers and pulls the latest changes from Subversion. Well, very often, hopefully or at best with every commit that happens to Subversion, it triggers a Git-SVN rebase to pull these latest changes into the Git repository. And it also, after having converted Subversion commits into Git history, it pushes these changes into a bare repository here, a centralized Git repository, which has some advantages, basically making sure that everybody can pull in the same Git Subversion history without having to clone and rebase against the Subversion repository themselves. They can instead just pull in the latest changes from this bare repository instead. And when they want to commit back, it's not allowed or wise to push back to the Git repository, but better for each developer to commit back to Subversion directly using the Git-SVN decommit command, which we did show in some casts before. So we'll start with setting up this fetching repository, basically by just cloning our Subversion repository, basically the same as we did in the first screencast. Here I have my Subversion repos, including the company repository that I want to clone. So I'm going to start with Git-SVN clone, SVN repos, company repo, and then inside this company repo I have a project called website. I also need to specify the path with these files / and users, tfnico, svn repos. Okay. That should give me a Git clone of the Git repository, Subversion repository. So there it is. Just to be clear, I'm going to call it website fetching, like that. Here we have all the history imported from the Subversion repository. So, just like we've shown in previous casts, this Subversion clone can automatically pull the latest changes that come from Subversion with doing Git-SVN rebase, like we looked at in previous casts. And also now we want to set up this bare repository that we will push to whenever a change occurs. So what we want to do is something like, I haven't made the repository yet, but I'm just going to pretend that we push to origin. So I'm going to call this bare repository. I'm going to give it the nickname origin, like the Git convention. So basically, let's just git init and create a bare repository with the name of website.git. Okay, this is an empty repository now. With no working copy, it's just have all the typical contents of the .git folder straight here at the root of the project. So this is like a bare repository, no working directory. So I'm going to go back to the fetching repository and add this as a remote, git remote add origin /website.git. Okay, now I can hopefully say git push to origin, the branch master. There we go. A quick look inside git and see that we have now the same log. That looks good. Okay. So now we've got our fetching repository set up and our bear repository set up. So every time a change occurs in Subversion, the following will happen. We trigger an automatic fetch inside the website fetching repository, like that, and then straight away it does git push origin. Okay, so let's jump into the shoes of one of our developers down here. For instance, Bob. He wants to get to work on doing some more coding for the website, so he does a git clone of the git repos website.git. Okay, here is Bob's repository. He does some changes in the README. And now Bob wants to push this change back to Subversion. So do not push directly back to origin. Bad idea. Do a Git-SVN commit and make sure that everybody will get your change through this chain of servers, so that kind of all the changes to history come in through the same way, with the necessary Subversion, with also being added to Subversion. So before Bob can do any kind of Git-SVN decommit, we need to make his repository aware of the remote Subversion repository. So in order to do this, we're just going to do the same. I'm not sure if we've done it before, but we'll initialize this as a Git Subversion repository. What we're actually doing is adding a remote of type Subversion. So I'm just going to point this at the same URL as we usually do, only not to Git repository, but Subversion repository. Website. There we go. And before I can push, well, maybe I can just try doing this straight away. Unable to determine upstream Subversion information from head history. So we've set up our Subversion repository. Ah, my URL is wrong. So I'm just going to go into the configuration and change. I forgot the company repo. Like that. Okay, let's try again. Git-SVN decommit. Okay, I think maybe we need to update do this command here. We basically tell our where the reference to the head of our Subversion remote should point. So let's just try that and do a Git-SVN decommit again. There we go. So now this will again automatically trigger a well, you will have to set up some kind of hook, for instance, in your Subversion post commit hooks that automatically triggers this Git-SVN rebase in the fetching repo and the push to the bear repo, and then this change that we just pushed will be available for other committers, developers to receive. So let's just simulate again what happens. Bob just committed to Subversion, the fetching repository There's a Git-SVN rebase. Cut Bob's change of the README. Does a git push origin branch master. And the bare repository now also have this change. And now other developers can pull in this commit just as if it came from Subversion. And also, of course, the Subversion users get this commit as we push it there as well. Yeah, that's about everything I wanted to cover. You also saw this little tricky update ref command that I had to do. This is basically because when I do when I get history from a Git repository with, for example, git pull, it doesn't automatically update the head of my Git-SVN remote. So in order to do this, when we are collaborating in this kind of model, before any developer can commit back to Subversion, he needs to do this little command in case there's been other changes coming into the bare repo in the meantime. It sounds a bit confusing, but what I ended up doing is just every time, instead of doing a Git-SVN decommit, I rather call this git update ref blah 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 script, which basically does this update ref, and afterwards does a Git-SVN decommit. So I suggest that you set up some kind of similar script if you make this model. So that's all I wanted to show. See you next time.